The visual identity of Doctor Who is incredibly important, whether that's down to the choice of lens, the blocking, the lighting, the way the aliens look, the types of villains we see on screen. Often the most successful series of Doctor Who have a very distinct feel. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, when you play games like Hoodle or Guess the Episode from the Frame, you can often kind of get a gist of at least the time period of Doctor Who that it's from, based on its visual identity. Chibnall era uses anamorphic lenses. The original RTD1 era is quite run down, quite rusty. All of the spaceships have that unclean feel to them, even the TARDIS. The early Tom Baker years give us this gothic horror vibe to every story. The way they've lit things, the locations used, it's very clearly the same show. That's needed when the show itself can go anywhere, do anything, but I think this is something that the show has maybe been lacking in for quite some time. There doesn't feel like a distinct visual identity to Doctor Who anymore, and I think bringing that back would actually help the show quite a lot. Just compare the 9th Doctor and 10th Doctor's TARDIS to the 14th and 15th Doctor's TARDIS. 9 and 10's is sort of screaming with character, like the 11th Doctor calls it his grunge phase. Like, this is right after the Time War, it's quite dark, it's dingy, you could even say that it lights up more as the series goes on. There's more light in the Doctor's life, there's more light in the TARDIS. Okay, maybe that's a little bit GCSE English teacher. It looks like it's alive, like it's based on coral. The designer talked about how it's meant to look natural. The TARDIS is a living thing, it's not just a spaceship in this iteration of Doctor Who. However, you come to the modern TARDIS, and nothing about that screams Ncuti Gatwa, nothing about that screams the 14th Doctor. It's just plain. With the exception of the jukebox is kinda cool. But we really needed more of that. It doesn't give you anything about this character. Any Doctor can be stuck in this TARDIS and it works. There's nothing about it in particular that makes it unique. Matt Smith's first console especially. That is very Matt Smith. It's all hodgepodge, all over the place, really busy, a little bit bonkers, and looks like something that he would drive. His second TARDIS comes into effect after the Snowmen, and then is so completely and utterly Capaldi's. When he's got all the candles, when he's got all the bookshelves, it looks like a lived-in environment. It looks like a place where the Doctor would spend loads of his time. In Joy to the World, when Ncuti goes into that TARDIS, in his dressing gown with a cup of tea, where's he sitting? Where's he relaxing? There's not even a chair. Now, I know that the plot directly calls that out and says there isn't even a chair, all that space, but why hasn't he furnished it? Why doesn't it feel like his own? It does also make me wonder, is this one of the reasons why audiences struggled to really connect with his Doctor? Not only was he absent from some of the episodes of his first season, his TARDIS almost feels like a placeholder. He hasn't furnished it because he's not going to be here that long. Now, I think this console room design is clearly technologically the most impressive, and I think if you saw it in person, your mind would kind of blow up. Like, it looks sick. I just wish they used the LED lights that we know can change colour far more than they did. So often, the TARDIS is just sterile, white. Episodes like Rogue or Empire of Death have fleeting moments where the lighting just pops off. But it does illustrate that point. Doctor Who's visual identity has gone. Even the 15th Doctor's costume. Every episode he comes in wearing something new. And that changing of costume is also represented within the stories. There's no tone. There's no consistent through line throughout. You go from the sort of fantasy kids adventure with the goblins in space on a wooden ship with the language of rope. That's very mythical, kind of Disney, to your classic Doctor Who spaceship and space babies. Then you've got Fine Time, which is kind of like an episode of Black Mirror. You've got 73 Yards, which feels like an episode of The Twilight Zone. UNIT's new HQ looks like the Avengers. It feels all muddled. What's interesting to me as well, in Russell's first era, he talks in The Writer's Tale and in Doctor Who Confidential about wanting everything to look rustic. He actively slags off white-looking spaceships.
Ships like the Enterprise and stuff like that, they're all comfortable and marvellous. And then in real life, you look at something like the Mir space station, and it's cramped and the food's rubbish and they're all bumping up against each other.
And says, nothing's that clean. The universe universe is rusty, dangerous, and lived in. And he's got a good point, because it works for his first era. Every spaceship of the OG Russell era is so intrinsically RTD1. Like, you just need to see a wall panel and you'll go, yeah, that's the first Russell era. I do understand, though, years later, now that he's got the budget to make pristine white spaceships look realistic and good, why not give it a try? Another clear example is the Paradigm Daleks. That script is pretty solid, and that reveal, imagine those new Paradigm Daleks coming out and not being coloured like Teletubbies. Like, it felt so clear to fans that this was a choice to make appealing toys rather than threatening Daleks. It also isn't aided by the fact that their heads are almost hitting the ceiling of the spaceship. These things matter because I genuinely believe if they dropped an insanely cool Dalek design for the Paradigm Daleks, people would probably remember that story and love them, and we'd probably still have the Paradigm design in today's Doctor Who, whereas it got completely forgotten, mainly, I think, because of the colour of the Daleks. As much negativity as there is online for things like the Chibnall era, it did have probably the most unique visual style ever. They used anamorphic lenses and kind of shot it like an ITV police drama, which I suppose Chibnall came off the back of Broadchurch, that's his vibe. There were so many extreme close-ups that it became a meme. When I spoke with Jamie Magnus Stone, the director of some Chibnall episodes for my podcast, he even mentioned how Chibnall in the edit would go, okay, zoom in a bit, like make it a closer close-up. Chibnall loved his close-ups. And I think in some instances that can definitely help aid the drama, but in some people may find it distracting. The lighting and the blocking of the Disney era is something that's been talked about non-stop by the Whovian community. A quick shout out to Mr. TARDIS, who's got a very interesting video on the problems with blocking in episodes like Wishworld. Like, it's not done in a visually interesting way. And also, because they now have so many expensive lights, they just turn them all on and everything's lit in quite a dull and flat way. If you look at lighting from especially Series 1 with Eccleston, it's a lot more experimental. Maybe experimental's the wrong word, but it's a lot more visually striking. And maybe it's because they had less to work with. Having more budget doesn't always mean a better product. Something like Heaven Sent or Hell Bent uses lighting in such a fantastic and interesting way. If that episode were made today, would they just whack all of the lights on? Like the Bone Palace from Wishworld, the Rani's ship. Why does it look so lit? Not as in lit, like Down with the Kids cool lit. As in, it should be a bit darker, a bit creepier, show that she's a villain. Or, if you want to go for a different aesthetic because she's a scientist, make it look like a lab. But they sort of go slap bang in the middle. It simultaneously has that lab bright lighting, but also it looks like a set that would really favour dingy, creepy lighting. I've written a couple of notes on directions that I think Doctor Who should take in terms of its visual identity. Let's just quickly talk about the TARDIS, okay? I think the TARDIS... Look, it'll come as no surprise to you. My favourite TARDIS is the 12th Doctor's. It feels lived in. It feels real. Having the extra round things, having the bookshelves, having the candles, and the layers to it as well, that you can properly walk underneath, it's fantastic. And crucially, it's not always brightly lit. It's often quite dingy. It feels real, it feels moody, it feels atmospheric, and it tells you about the Doctor that owns it. I think whatever the next TARDIS is should maybe take a little bit of a steampunk vibe. What I have to say about 15's TARDIS, I love the console, the levers and the buttons and all that. I think that looks pretty cool, that's pretty neat. I also do love the ramps. I think having ramps leading to different corridors and stuff, that should be in the new TARDIS. So a bit steampunky, similar console to 15's. But dingy lighting. Make the lighting less over the top. Make it feel lived in as well. Bookshelves, books, etc. The exterior of the box as well, I think should maybe be a little bit more battered. Like classic Who, it looks like it's just someone just whacked it all over the place, which is quite nice. It feels lived in. It feels like a box that has travelled through time and space. Whereas especially in the Smith and Capaldi eras, the exterior of the box is just pristinely clean. No, batter it up a bit, make it look older. I do love the exterior of 13, 14 and 15's TARDIS, something like that, but even more battered. The Daleks, I think, are in desperate need of a redesign. Now, not with Teletubby colours. Don't do that. But I think making them bigger and bulkier like the Paradigms was actually a good move. Make them feel like a tank. I think we need to see less Daleks, but a more threatening Dalek, or a couple of Daleks. Like the Cult of Skaro was a banger idea, that sort of vibe, but make them all fancy and new. Give them different arm attachments, like one has a claw, one has that weird sort of pincery thing. One has the classic plunger. Make them feel unique and different and only use a couple of them. Because I feel like the more Daleks you have, the less threatening they are. I also can't quite get the idea of these stained glass god Daleks out of my head while we're doing Russell T Davies era 2 and gods are about, like the Dalek Emperor in Series 1 with Eccleston keeps talking about blasphemy and it wants to be a god. Make god Daleks and make them look like that. That's such a cool vibe. Just something new for the Daleks I feel is needed. Something consistent. Because I think Doctor Who lends itself into sort of steampunk kind of, not full steampunk, but elements of steampunk within its design. I think whatever the new era is, it should take a bit of steampunky inspiration, especially with villains like the Cybermen. Why can we not have proper, rusty, body horror, scary Cybermen? Shout out to Chris Chibnall though, because the lone Cyberman was pretty close. Like that, I like that. More like that, please. Even more rusty, even more steampunk, even more genuinely scary. Like, I want Doctor Who to scare kids again. Like, it doesn't do that anymore. You've got space babies and singing goblins. I want kids to be terrified of the Cybermen. Like, my little brother he used to wake up screaming in the middle of the night because he thought a Cyberman was going to get him. Like, that's what Doctor Who is. People hide behind the sofa at Doctor Who, bring that back. I touched on like God Daleks and stained glass Daleks. Do similar things with Cybermen. Like, I don't know what, I've had this idea for so long in my head of like a stained glass window with a Cyberman on, and then a sort of plot about Cybermen using religion, and because they understand human emotion, they don't have emotions themselves, but they understand how to control. Like starting up a little cult of like, you can ascend with us if you become like us, we're the true religion. Having Cybermen in that context, once again, rather than loads of them, having a couple of rustic, broken down Cybermen, I think that would be really cool. Take it in that direction, especially if you're doing this era of gods, god Daleks, Cybermen manipulating people using their religion. Bringing us to another villain, I think Flux nailed the Sontaran aesthetic. Make them muddy, make them look like they've been in a battle, look like they've been in a war. The original Russell era Sontarans, they're cool, they're neat, but putting them in muddy fields in the Crimea, caked in mud with their armour, bit rusty, brute force, perfect design for the Sontarans. I think as well, like, it's because he's my favourite villain, but bring back Omega and make him steampunky, make him a man again. He's not a giant skeleton, please. Or a man with a skeleton face, because, I mean, he's got no body. He could be trying to reform his body with a sort of skeleton face, bit steampunky vibes. That is the direction you should take villains like Omega. Time Lords as well. I think it's time. Come on, guys. We've done enough Gallifrey. Gallifrey's been destroyed so many times. New Gallifrey. A new civilization of Time Lords who've escaped and maybe gone back to a planet that hasn't been seen for years, or it's one of the original planets of Gallifrey, a twin planet or a backup planet, and it is all cool cathedrals, because this is achievable on a BBC budget. Go to like Gloucester Cathedral, whack up some Time Lord statues, cover up some of the Christian imagery and replace it with Gallifreyan symbols, and you've got new Gallifrey. Time Lord collars are really cool, but make them smaller, more sleek. Have Time Lords walking around in those robes, in those sort of things. Take it in an almost like a little bit of a Roman-like direction. Like base Time Lords off like sci-fi, futuristic, steampunk Romans. That's a vibe I think you should take here. And as well, I've been saying it for the longest time, bring in non-human looking Time Lords. Like, you can tell 101 stories about that. Aesthetically, it works. The aesthetics of UNIT are an interesting one as well, because in the classic era, it's always sort of country houses, and they are a secret organisation. And then you look at, like, the early Russell era, they're just military. Like, the aesthetic is just military. And now they're the Avengers. Like, they have an Avengers tower, they have this big, pristine, cool set, and I don't know, I think maybe take a nice middle ground, kind of like Chibnall did, actually, with his UNIT skyscraper and Power of the Doctor. But I think the Stark Tower thing is a little bit too... That's too Marvel. Leave them to do that vibe. Let Doctor Who do something else. I don't think UNIT should feel that funded. I think they should be a little bit on the back foot. Like, the scientists should be genius minds putting together these crazy contraptions rather than, like, just pristine looking offices. But I don't know, that's up to you. Let me know in the comments what you think on that. And then finally, the look, vibe and aesthetic of the places they shoot. One of the things that makes Series 1 with Eccleston so fantastic, if you'll pardon the word fantastic, is every time they return to Earth, it feels like a real place. Like, they go to the Powell estate, and that feels like somewhere that you'd walk past on your way to school, for example. And as a kid, you think, like, oh yeah, like, I could be there. It doesn't have to be that exact location or that exact vibe, but sticking to a version of the world that feels real, not something clean. It's something Russell actually said and did for the 60th anniversary, which I thought was brilliant of him. He says he will always tell the set department to put some stuff on the stairs of people's houses. So, like, in the noble's house, he was like, shove a couple of books and a cup and a plate on there, because people always have things at the top of the stairs. Like, especially in a family home, it's all those little details. Like, in the Robot Revolution, they originally shot Belinda living in that big house on her own, which I think is a mad decision, because where's the money? Like, I think that's supposed to be based in London. No one of Belinda's age on an NHS salary would be able to afford a giant house all to themselves. So in post, they had to go in and reshoot, add in these roommates, add in that thing about a shared fridge, which was definitely the right call, but I don't think it should be done in post. I think it should be intrinsic to the plot. People need to feel like this world that they're seeing is real. Like, as bonkers as all these aliens are, I want Doctor Who to feel real again. And I think Russell's first era really achieved that, because as I say, everything was rusty. All of the aliens looked like Doctor Who aliens. You could tell what show they were from. And I think Doctor Who shouldn't lose that. It needs to capture not the same visual identity as it used to have, but its own new, unique identity, which it can take forward and be known for. Like these Daleks, these Cybermen, it's why I say maybe go with a little bit of a steampunky vibe. When you see them together, they need to look like they belong to the same universe. And as well, shoot it on more cinematic cameras, figure out the lighting, stop over lighting it, but let me know what you're thinking in the comments down below. Do you like my suggestions? Are they terrible suggestions? Is the Disney Plus era actually the best visuals the show has ever had, and I'm an idiot and I'm wrong? Let me know what you're thinking in the comments down below. Let me know what designs and vibes you'd go for. Is there like an image you've had, like me, in your head for so long of like, that's how a Cyberman should look, or that's how a Dalek should look? Let me know. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you did enjoy. Patreon, subscribe, any help appreciated. I've lost the plot. Cheers, thanks, goodbye.
Don't forget to click below and subscribe to the official Confused Adipose YouTube channel.
I will destroy you!
She's not seen a single episode.
No, I've watched your episodes.
Keep these sonic screwdrivers.
What else am I saying about the film? Don't watch this one.